Hello, BookTube. I've got some mail for you today. A very dodgy Wednesday. Very dodgy. We had rain and wind last night, but today I was kind of hoping for a little bit of spring. And it seems like there's some sort of edict that is banning Boston from having spring. Today's been on and off clouds. Now it's solid clouds with wind and a threat of rain. And clouds just in the forecast. So the afternoon is... It doesn't matter if there's no rain in the forecast. If it's blah, then neither Frida nor I really want to go on long rambles. That's just the way of it. But we do have some mail to brighten things up. I got quite a bit of periodicals and one package. That ought to do. This doesn't have to be 40 minutes. So the first periodical was Squarebound Science Fiction magazine, Asimov's, my favorite. There's Asimov's Analog and the magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction. Asimov's is generally my favorite. This has a Robert Reed story, so I'm already set. This came in the mail because I subscribed, and somehow or another my subscription went through. So I will put this on the pile. I mentioned the other day that I stopped reading these because the previous issue of Analog, Mark Richardson just sent me the new issue of Analog in the mail, but the previous issue of Analog stopped me cold. The whole bunch of a story that was just steeped in Twitter politics. I don't want that. I don't want to be preached at. I don't want you, the author, to write a story that's designed only to make me clutch my pearls, like just out of contempt for the reader. I don't want that to happen, and I stuck on that story. I ran aground on it and couldn't skip it. I couldn't make myself skip it and go on to the other stories in that issue. So instead, because life's too short, I just skip that issue. I just stuck it away somewhere. I'll move on to the next Analog, and that had a tremendous house clearing effect. I suddenly want to read these things again until the next time it happens. And if I get to an issue of Analog that just has one story after another like that, where the characters say, well, you wouldn't be white if you weren't a little bit racist, or a character has a choice between another human, any human, male, female, whatever, or a lug nut to have a sexual relationship with, they pick the lug nut because they want to shock the reader, who they assume is a cishet, white, middle-class, Midwestern quasi-Nazi. If the next time I run into a story like that is also an Analog, I'll just let my subscription lapse. I just stop reading Analog. If that happens more than a couple of times, that means there's an editor who's making that happen, who's choosing stories along those lines. And if that's true, sometimes editors can stay for years. I've had that happen. Not with noxious Twitter politics, but with other things, with other kinds of things, if the editor philosophy changes, you just have to abandon the magazine. Otherwise, you're just going to be fighting it the whole time. But Asimov's, that hasn't happened. So I got this is what, the June issue? Yeah, the May-June issue. And I'm all caught up on Asimov, so I will get right to this. Then the next thing here is The Nation, printed on pulp paper here. I haven't even glanced at this thing. Yeah, I don't even know what's in here, but I do like The Nation. I almost always find something worthwhile in it. Another thing that came in the mail was the Bedford Times Press from Bedford, Iowa, in Taylor County, Iowa. This is a local newspaper. Very local. This is all about local concerns. It's all about local sports. There are some local utes running and jumping, winning awards as always. But on the first page when you open it up, there's something that isn't local. They gave me a book column. They run a book column of mine, as your own local paper could do. Feel free to mention it to them. They could run this as well. Rates are very reasonable. What was on my mind this time? Oh yes, reading with guests. Where I write about what it's like if your reading routine is interrupted by a guest. For the most part, I lead a quiet, bookish life. I write and read all day and all night, taking liberal breaks to feed and water my little dog, to pamper my little dog, and to take my little dog on walks around the neighborhood. Typically, the only changes to this little arrangement are fairly small things. Will the next big book be much better, or, gulp, much worse than the last one? Is the weather too freezing cold for a long dog walk in the woods or the park? That kind of thing. And that quiet life with the little dog is true right now. Baby's right next to me. There's no sunlight, so she doesn't really want to be up on her perch, staring at the street. Plus, she's a little bit tired. She's a little bit tired. So, but anyway, If you are interested in reading my Ex Libris column, of course, the Bedford Times Press paywalls everything. So if you want to read this, you have two options. One is to subscribe to the Bedford Times Press, which you are, of course, encouraged to do. Of course, I encourage you to do that. But another way to read this column would be to get it syndicated in your own local newspaper. Do you have a local venue in your town where you know the editor or you know somebody involved? Maybe you are the editor. If you have a local venue, there is a weekly books column. My ruminations about books every week might spruce things up. It's about 800 to 1,000 words once a week. And I am positive that whoever you contact about this can meet my rates. I am positive, because I adjust them to be meetable. And I'd love to appear in more venues. I'd love to reach more audiences. I'm perfectly happy with all the readers in Taylor County, but I'm perfectly happy to reach others as well. And then the last periodical that came was the New York Review of Books, which had a little bit of a lapse. This is the May 12th issue. And I kept getting notices from the New York Review of Books. I kept getting them and just ignoring them. And eventually my subscription, I think, ran out. And then I just recently had a little house cleaning fervor there. The temperature reached 70 degrees Fahrenheit one day here, and I just had a spring cleaning fervor. I took the pile of subscription cards and paper and prepaid envelopes and whatnot and just wrote out checks for everything. And one of those was the New York Review of Books. So that subscription is now renewed. But I did miss some issues, and this is the first one. So we will just see. I haven't looked at this at all, but I'm hoping that it has lots of good things in it to compensate for the one bad thing that I already know is in here. There's a poem in this issue that is, I haven't looked at it. I haven't read it. I don't need to. I am sure that it is garbage. But this is a full issue. The New York Review of Books is one of the great English language newspaper review organs in the world, so I'm glad to be resubscribed. It was pure inertia. It wasn't me walking off in a huff. It was just pure inertia that I let my subscription lapse. And then we have the one package that we'll be dealing with. This will be a nice short mail haul. One package only. I don't know what else is coming today. Let's see what we have here. Okay. This is a finished copy for May 10th. All right. Let's see here. This is a finished copy for May 10th. Anything? Anything at all? There we go. This is by Camila Sosa Villada, translated by Kit Maud, and it is called Bad Girls, with an out-of-focus American cover. Has blurbs on the back from BuzzFeed, Elle, Rolling Stone with parentheses Argentina. There's a Rolling Stone that's published in Argentina with specific Argentinian content. Did not know that. What have we got here? Gritty and unflinching, exuding tenderness, fantasy and humor, Bad Girls by Argentinian writer and actress Camila Sosa Villada offers a stirring portrait of found family. Found family is a red flag. It's a alt-left SJW term, because these people are sociopaths, most of them, and they have no idea what friendship is. They don't know what friends are. They have allies they can turn on at the drop of a hat if the ally says something they don't agree with that morning. But they'll never use the word friend. Found family is the mouthful that they come up with for friends, for people that you care about. That's what found family is supposed to be, people that you care about. And it is meant to be both workaround to using the word friend, which for some reason they don't like, and also a backhanded insinuation that all non-found family are evil. Anyway, that might not be true. That might not be true in this case. Centered on a collective of trans sex workers piecing together a living in the grit of 1990s Cordoba, Bad Girls is a raw, imaginative coming-of-age tale about finding a community among fellow outcasts, braiding elements of magical realism and drawing from the author's own experiences earning a living as a sex worker, street vendor, and hourly maid. This novel offers an indelible universe echoing the ethereality of Samantha Schweblin and Mariana Enriquez writing, and adding to the tradition of own voices narratives in Kweke Emeze and Tori Peters. Okay, all right, okay. There's probably not much reason for me to read any more of this. I not only will not be reviewing this, I'm not allowed to review this. Found Family. I'm not allowed to review this. Can you imagine what would happen if I read this thing, reviewed it, and said it's inept? Not anything other than that. Not that no shame on the author for having been or still being a sex worker. No hatred towards trans people. Just that the book, as fiction, is inept. Can you imagine what would happen? This is critic proof 6 ways from Sunday. There is nothing any critic can do but like this. I mean, is there a reason to read more? It's all just going to be, we are the greatest things that have ever happened in the entire history of the world, and we are all the author. Okay, well, you know that it's coming out. If that subject matter, if that description interests you, there's really no reason to get into details here, since there's no way that I can review this. There's no way that I can come anywhere near it. Because if I don't say it's perfect, then I will be tarred as a bigot. I have no interest in that. I have no interest in those kind of games at all. So, but anyway, this comes out in May. Bad Girls, a translation of an Argentinian writer. So some of you may find that interesting just on its own. That would be interesting on its own if the author were trying to practice her craft and earn her keep in the open marketplace, but she isn't. She isn't trying to do that, or at least her publicity campaign is not trying to do that. But if you think that you are bulletproof, you will get lazy. I'd be willing to bet, if I can judge from Luster, from the novel Luster, this will be a lazy book. And I'm still getting emails about my review of Luster. So anyway, a little bit anticlimactic with our book, unfortunately. But we also have periodicals, which is great. So one book and a stack of periodicals. Yes, Bad Girls. Le Monde says it's an homage to sex workers suffused with magic. Well, it could be really good, right? It could be really good. It's translated, so okay. The epigraph is from Gabriela Mistral, and it is "We Are All to Be Queens." Author's note. Okay. The author's note is going to boil down to saying none of this is fiction. How does it start? The night air in the park is dense, dark, and freezing. The ancient trees, recently stripped of their leaves, look askance to the heavens, pleading for some obscure boon essential to vegetation. A group of travestis makes its rounds in the shadows cast by the branches. They almost seem to move as one body, cells from the same animal, or members of the same pack. Potential Johns cruise by in their cars, slowing down to inspect the group before selecting one with the wave of an arm. The chosen woman answers their call. Night after night, nothing changes. Sarmiento Park is right at the heart of the city, a large green lung with a zoo and a theme park. At night it turns wild. The travestis wait in the shelter of the branches or by the side of the road, casting their spell from the jaws of the wolf that stands next to the statue of Dante, who also lends his name to the avenue. Every night, the travestis drag themselves out of a hell that no one would ever think to write about to spring back to the world. Okay, all right. I will read it in May, and we will see. But there's lots of periodicals for me to dig into as well. So that's a little bit of an anticlimactic mail haul, but there'll be other mail hauls. So I'll wrap this up for now, and I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.